What up, y'all? It's your man, Abuamerican. You know, I was, you might hear my kids in the background here, but that's okay. I'm a family man. A situation came to my attention, where there was a family conflict, and what you had was like this long-running battle between family members that the father figure, he never really checked over years. And it turned into like a lifelong running battle. And so now it's become like where these people in the family, it's just a way of life to just battle each other. And the man of the house, well, obviously we're talking about the women, okay? It's pretty clear. So the man in the house didn't check these women. And so now later on, you find that this is almost becoming a generational thing to where it like carries on into, the younger children and this stuff and grandchildren. It's like turning into this big old giant, just intergenerational female combat thing. And the brother was like, yo, I want to intervene. I want to, he's living the life with these people and he's intervening to try and stop it. Eat it, don't play with it. Daughter already play with stuff. Simply for, the sanctity of his sanity on his own, And so apparently there was an argument. Things got heated, and the father, who didn't intervene throughout the generations, he got kind of upset, and he made some brash and rapid, decisions and choices. I'm not really sure how to word this, but let's just say this. Avoiding conflict isn't really always the best thing to do. I think this is one of the things why I tell you guys to go into combat sports. You have to be able to regulate your emotions so that you don't make decisions all of a sudden, brashly, uncalculated, because you haven't learned to regulate your internal condition as a man and your emotions. And that's not to say we can't get married, we can't get angry. My wife's sitting right here. She'll tell you, I get heated at times. I get heated. I get mad. But I understand my anger. And this is why a lot of times it's like, if you were on Twitter, you know that at one time I was on Twitter, I came home and I literally broke my wife's phone. I broke her phone because the consequences of not breaking her phone was she can't stop. So she's like texting, saying stupid stuff, and I'm just like getting wound up, and she knows my triggers because she's my wife. She lives with me. She watches me, I'm like, okay. And then it's like, she knows I'm like a combative person. I'm not going to back down. So what happens? I came home, I crushed the phone because what's the consequences? So I had to think to myself, what's the consequence? I'm going to divorce this woman. I'm going to Hadoken karate chop punch her. I'm not going to do that. Or I'm going to have to force her to stop because she can't stop herself. And I know for a fact as a man, I can't back down from a fight or a challenge. Now you might think that sounds like unregulated, anger and whatnot, but it's not. I understand where things are going because I've dealt with my anger for quite some time. And if you read the book, The Mad Monkey, then you know that, I spent a lot of time in the field of anger with myself and just fighting people in the streets of Germany. So anyway, the point being, I understand when I'm upset, and I understand when I'm mad, and I understand my tipping point. And so I know when to disengage, when to say, hey, look, you need to stop. You need to disengage, because I know I'm not going to back down. And these types of things. And if you have spent your life avoiding conflict, you won't know your tipping points. You won't know what's going to send you over the edge. I know what I'm going to send over, so it's going to send myself over the edge. Have I said it before? Like, hey, buddy, and give you warnings and whatnot. I was like, dude, you're getting tired of this, right? Yeah, because tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm lying. Yeah, so I know my limits, and I know when to say, hey, look, you know what? We're coming up on a limit. it's going too far. This needs to stop, because I understand my tipping point. But if you've never been a man who's gone into any sort of conflict, you've just made conflict avoidance your way of life, that's what it's going to take to push you over the edge. And then you're going to do something that you're going to regret later. And even when you understand your tipping point, that doesn't mean that you can't be pushed over the edge. Don't think for a minute that stoicism, staying to your mission, focusing on your mission, that doesn't mean that you can't be pushed over the edge. That doesn't mean that you're always going to have everything on grip. Sometimes that roller coaster is going to get crazy and you're just going to be like, you know what? Let's just push it over the edge, and you're going to hit the gas pedal and you're going to, let's go. Ah! Because we're men. But if you don't have those mechanisms in place to where at least you can say, hey, this curve is coming up. It's pretty sharp. Let me pull back the brakes. Let me disengage or whatever else. If you don't have that, then you're going to do stuff that everyone in your life is going to regret. You're going to accidentally or maybe even intentionally, Alano's best, I might actually call this malicious. It's almost like emotional manslaughter. You know what I mean? Where it's like the option to learn how to regulate this for you as a man has been there your whole life, but you never took it. And therefore, any sort of fallout that comes later, you kind of have culpability in it because you spent your life avoiding it. So I can't directly blame this guy, when I hear this story. But at the same time, it's like he had the option to regulate the women in his life at an early age, when everything was still fresh, everybody was still young, and everybody was still forming this combat arena lifestyle that they have for the next couple of decades. But he chose not to, and so the story that comes from the brother, the women, the brother's telling me about how the women are arguing and he's chilling, eating food and listening to them argue instead of saying, hey, look, give it a break, stop, whatever else. This is where we come in as men. When you have women, your wives, your daughters, your whatever else, it's your job as the man to be the man in the house. And you're the lawgiver. You're the authority. Because women, they're emotional. So what are they going to do? They're just going to keep going into emotion. And then that chaos starts. We are the regulation. We're the regulators of emotion. We're that blow off valve where it's okay. You're in the machine room, you see the pressures building, and you just sit there watching the dial go crazy, and you got the regulator switch. You are the regulator switch. And it might be loud, it might get hot in there when you hit that regulator switch and the steam blows out. You've seen the movies. You know how steam blows out and the room gets all hot and, it's hard to breathe. It can get uncomfortable. But it's your job to cause discomfort instead of allowing the ship or the vehicle or the vessel or the train to explode from the pressure buildup. It's your job. It's better to deal with the discomfort than it is to just blow up your ship. And in this case, we're talking about relationships, families, whatever else. It's just better to deal with the discomfort for a short amount of time. You can always let the pressure build up again later, because it will. Because you know what? People, they live together and stuff happens. People get upset and it's normal. It's normal, So guys, do your job. Do your job. No one's going to do it for you. Women aren't going to do it for you. Your neighbor's not going to do it for you. You can't call your dad to do it for you. It's your job.